All right, so the Carolina Panthers kicking off our Week 15 power rankings at number 32. So the Panthers, they can't execute. They can't really do anything right. And they don't really have coaching. They don't really have a backbone to the franchise. And poor Bryce Young, man, he's probably going to have to learn a whole new system next year. And the Panthers may have already ruined Bryce Young, unfortunately. But, yeah, it is what it is. They're staying down here at number 32. They don't deserve to move up after getting beat pretty good by the Saints. Number 31, Patriots. Don't feel the need to move them. I know they just beat up on the Steelers, but they were without Kenny Pickett. The Steelers were without Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt for, some of the games. So the Patriots took advantage of that. And, it is what it is. Injuries are a part of the game. But, the first half, you look great. Bailey Zappi was looking good, making some really nice throws. They were up 21-3 at one point. In the second half, you get shut out. And you're very fortunate. You have a really strong defense. And you have the mastermind Bill Belichick coaching up that defense. Thank goodness. If you didn't, you would have lost this game somehow to Mitch. But I felt like it was some bad coaching on the other side as well. But yeah, Patriots sticking down here, number 31. Didn't feel the need to move them. Commanders at 30. They moved down one spot, just kind of the way the board fell. Even though they're coming off the bye, both teams on the bye actually moved down some spots. It's just the way the board fell. Number 29, Raiders. Really pathetic outing. It was, really pathetic offensive outing. I mean, you have weapons. You have Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, and Josh Jacobs, and I even like how Michael Mayer has been coming on of late. But it's just like Aiden O'Connell. He couldn't really get the job done yesterday. He didn't look good. I mean, they couldn't really do too much. But the Vikings defense, give some props to them. But really pathetic outing. They're moving out 2 spots after the 3-0 loss. That game probably should have been like a 1 a.m. game, like 1 in the morning, so no one has to watch it. But 28. Jets move up 2 spots. It's a really impressive win versus the Texans. I mean, they won comfortably, and they're they put up the most points they ever have this season. It's 100% their season. How would they put up? 34, 33, 30, something around that range. But nonetheless, their defense stepped up, and yeah, the Texans did have key players missing, but you still did a very good job against a very good quarterback who has been good this year. And they still have some other weapons. Let's not act like they don't. I mean, Noah Brown. I mean, yeah, maybe not too many more. Dalton Schultz. But it is what it is. Move up 2 spots, and I can move them up too much. But, if they do continue to win, they will continue to move up. It's just how power rankings go. But I'm not, it's an upset win. They happen all the time. Like, they beat the Eagles. Does that mean they're better than the Eagles, that they should move up 20 spots or 10 spots? No. It is what it is. Upsets happen. Number 27, the Cardinals moved down 2 spots coming off the bye. It's just the way the board fell, man. The Titans and the Giants, they got really nice upsets on Monday Night Football, so that's why they moved ahead of the Cardinals. The Giants at 26, moving up 2 spots. I mean, Tommy DeVito, a.k.a. Tommy Cutlets, a.k.a. Tommy DeVito Mania, or whatever they're calling it. I'm hearing so many different nicknames for him, but it seems like he's been playing some good football. He put together a game-winning drive versus the Packers and the game-winning field goal, of course. I mean, hey, I called that upset, by the way. I called it. I thought that this Giants defense would be able to make, would be able to limit Jordan Love and not really let Jordan Love keep doing what he has been doing. You look at the Packers team, it's a young football team. That's a team that's coming off of, a win against the Chiefs, a 3-game winning streak, and they were due for a loss. And I saw this coming. I literally predicted it. So, the Giants moving up 2 spots. Nice win on a very hot Packers football team. And, little to say, the Giants are on a 3-game winning streak themselves. And I think they're like 1 game out of the playoff, out of a wild card spot, which is pretty wild. The NFL was really tight this year. There's so many teams that, down here at like 26, at like 24 and 25, like, they're not 100% out of it, but they're pretty close to being out. But the NFL is so tight this year. There are so many dang football teams that are just still somehow in the playoff picture. I don't think we've ever seen this before. Not recently, anyways. But the Titans moving up 1 spot themselves. Really impressive win over the Dolphins, especially in the fashion that they did it. They were down, 2 scores with 5.5 minutes to go. Will Levis, I really like what I saw from Will Levis. I mean, he threw the pick 6 right in the get-go, but he never gave up. He never lost his confidence, and that's a great thing to see in a young quarterback. And even down 2 scores with 5.5, 5 minutes, or was probably less than that, but it's really impressive. I mean, Will Levis, young quarterback against a defense that has some really impressive corners. You know, they have a good defensive line. That Dolphins defense has been one of the best defenses the last couple of weeks coming into this game. And Will Levis in the last 5 minutes put up 2 touchdowns and said, nah, this game isn't over. And somehow the Titans upset the Dolphins. But, yeah, Titans move up 1 spot. They moved up too much. Like I kind of said with the Jets, it's an upset. The Titans don't really have a great resume. And it's their first win on the road, actually, I think. But it is what it is. We'll see what they do next week if they can keep it going. And if they do, they'll move up even more. They'll probably move up more than 1 spot. But yeah, moving up 1 spot, nice upset win. And then you got number 24, the Chargers, one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL. I mean, like, man, come on now, like, wasn't even close. The game was never even close. Never felt close. And Justin Herbert got hurt. He went down. Easton Stick came in. You can only do so much. I mean, Justin Herbert can only do so much himself. And then you have a backup quarterback come in. I mean, poor backup quarterback. You say poor Justin Herbert with all the talent he's got. I mean, I'm not talking smack on the backups, but there's a reason why Easton Stick is a backup. So really disappointing what this Chargers team has done this season. I mean, they're really, really wasting Justin Herbert. I say don't even let him go back out there. Just let him rest the rest of the year. You know he's not going to want to. He's going to want to go out there and play. But, I mean, come on, man. Like, just fire Brandon Staley. Can't wait for him to be gone. Can't wait for that mess to be over. So, yeah, he just looked absolutely horrible. 23, Steelers, speaking of absolutely horrible, 2 games in a row where you lose to 2 teams with 2 wins. That's pretty pathetic. I mean, the Cardinals, they had 2 wins. He gave them their 3rd wins. And the same case with the Patriots. First half, I think they scored only 3 points, 10 points. But, the coaching, the play calling has been very interesting. Now, when you have a quarterback like Mitchell Trubisky throwing triple coverage, for some reason, he's lobbing it up on a 4th and 2 instead of trying to just pick up the first. He's not really, he doesn't see the field well. He overthrows so many passes. And then TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith were in and out because they were hurt. Oh, it's a disaster, man. And I give so much props to Mike Tomlin for somehow, some way having that team in the playoff picture. Even with Kenny Pickett, that offense hasn't been good all year long. It's a defense making big-time plays. But they're moving down 3 spots. It's been very disappointing. I don't care if they're in the playoff picture or not. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. Number 22, the Saints move up 1 spot. So if you look at that score, if you look at, just the box score, the final score, it kind of looks like that the Saints dominated and they beat up on the Panthers really good. And they did to a certain degree, but I actually think that the Saints were very sloppy in this game. And I thought they were very fortunate that they played the Panthers and not any other team. Like, the Panthers, they can't do anything. They have no backbone. They have no structure to the team right now. And, the Saints, their coaching is not very good either. I'm not a fan of Dennis Allen. I think he's going to be fired after this year. I mean, you just look at the talent on that team, and they just can't do anything with it. I mean, like, on paper, this is like one of the more talented teams in the NFL. But they play very sloppy. They don't play like it. And a lot of times that can be a coaching issue. Yeah, the players have to go out there and execute themselves, but, you're horrible in the red zone. You're horrible on 3rd downs, and Derek Carr has never been good in the red zone. Even with the Raiders, he's never been really good in the red zone. But yeah, Saints move up 1 spot. You did win. You did beat them pretty comfortably, but let's not act like that game was perfect. Let's not act like that was a dominating performance. They were sloppy. Seahawks at 21. They're staying put after they got beat pretty good by the Niners, yeah, but they did keep it close. I just didn't feel the need to move them up, to move them down. It's just kind of the way the board fell. So they're staying put at number 21. Number 20, the Colts moving down 4 spots. I mean, it's been coming to them. They've barely won games or struggling to win the games, and it felt like they got dominated this game. Like, things didn't go their way. They kind of rely on things to go their way, it seems like, and that's not a consistent winning formula in the NFL. They have good players and they're being coached and, they're very well coached, but that's about that's about it. Like, you know, the defense has had good moments here and there, but it really felt like the Bengals could have won this game by 30 points. Like, you know, it really almost was because, you know, without their pick six, you would be looking at 7-34, you know, even more because I felt like the Bengals were moving the ball all day long. Felt like that they weren't really showing everything either. You know, and then on top of that, the Colts offense, they couldn't really run the ball against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. It was very, very poor performance all around. Somehow they're still in the playoff picture, but they're number 20, moving down 4 spots. The Falcons moved down 1 spot after another really disappointing performance. It's just like, you know, but there's so many teams that are just so close, like, to being good football teams. It's weird. Like, they all have really good attributes, but it's like, what's this? What's that? But the Falcons, man, really tough game versus the Bucs. I mean, Desmond Ridder, he made a couple of plays on this one, but it really wasn't enough. But ultimately, defense could get it down the stretch, and the Bucs went ahead and scored a touchdown and didn't leave the offense much time to score. And Desmond Ridder not giving him much time. That's a recipe for disaster for the Falcons. But yeah, they're moving down 1 spot, and then on top of that, they have their division rival, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, moving up 4 spots. I mean, Baker Mayfield is so clutch, dude. Like, 3rd downs, late in games, Baker Mayfield is clutch. Like, he always finds a way. And, you know, if he could play like that for all 4 quarters, this Buccaneers team would be scary. They would be scary because, you know, the defense is pretty good. For the most part, they do struggle here and there, and they did definitely struggle yesterday versus a team that they shouldn't really struggle against too much. I mean, you know, this defense has a lot of talent on it. But Desmond Ridder was bailed out quite a few times by Drake London, by just some insane catches by Drake London. But the Bucs defense in general is a pretty good unit. They have some really good pieces, some good corners. They can get pressure on you. And then on top of that, Baker Mayfield is clutch. If Baker Mayfield can be more consistent and play like that all game long, the Bucs would be a very good football team. They will probably be the, you know, it is what it is. All right, number 17, the Chicago Bears, man. They up 7 spots. Not the biggest mover up. We have a bigger mover that you'll see up here at number 5. But, I mean, they won 3 out of the last 4. They should have beat the Lions the first time around. They outplayed them the entire game, but they still lost. They really impressed me last game, and that defense is getting going, man. Matt Eberflus, that's looking like the Colts defenses when Matt Eberflus was there. You know, they're flying to the ball, you know, a lot of coverage, and that's what Jared Goff struggles against, and the Bears played it perfectly. They did a very good job. I mean, they're making plays. Jalen Johnson is a dog. Justin Fields, I still got my questions. You know, rewatching the game, I'm still seeing open receivers. He's very athletic, and he's going to make a lot of big plays on the ground. I mean, the offensive line could be better, but yeah, man, this team is playing better, and I think, you know, a lot of Bears fans wanted Matt Eberflus gone in the beginning of the year. I don't think, you know, even now, I don't think Matt Eberflus is going anywhere, but yeah, he's probably going to be there for another year or so. Yeah, the Bears moved off 7 spots. I mean, what, did they beat the, no, the Packers beat the Lions. Hold up. Yeah, so they beat the Lions, of course, the Panthers, they lose to the Saints. You beat the Vikings, and really that game they lost to the Lions, they really should have won it. They outplayed them the entire game. They just kind of screwed it up at the end. But hey, you know, you look at the remaining schedule, maybe the Bears can make a run at this, but the issue is they already have a lot of losses in their conference, so playoffs are going to be very difficult, but they really are only technically like 1 game out. But yeah, they're still moving up 7 spots. This Bears team has shown a lot of improvement. I think they have a bright future, whether Fields is the quarterback or not. But Bears moving up 7 spots, they've been impressive. They've been a different team the last couple of weeks here. 16, the Vikings are moving up 1 spot, even though it's a very boring matchup to watch and their offense was horrible. Brian Flores, man, has this defense playing at a very high level. I'm not a huge fan of that, you know, of a lot of the talent in the defense, you know, but they have, I think it's Metalius and Ivan Pace, and they have playmakers, and Brian Flores is making them look even better than what they really are. I've been so impressed with Brian Flores and how much he's been able to do with this defense. Of course, you have Harrison Smith. Just really impressed with Brian Flores and that defense, and I don't know how many times I'm going to say that, but yeah, the Vikings, I mean, they find a way to win, but I mean, yeah, it's still rough sledding for them. But yeah, so then we have the Minnesota Vikings at number 16, moving up one spot after a very interesting outing versus the Raiders that almost went to overtime tied at 0. I wonder if that would have been the first time ever that have happened, but that would be pretty wild. I was kind of hoping for a 0-0 tie, but because it would just be very cool and just like wild. But, I mean, Josh Dobson didn't play good. He absolutely fell off. I mean, you had Nick Mullins come in. He found a way to win at the end there, get you into field goal range. But, yikes, that was a tough game to watch. Moving on, number 15. You have the Green Bay Packers moving down 3 spots after a very, very, very disappointing loss to the Giants. I mean, you have a chance to continue your playoff run, so to say, to keep you in the playoffs. All right, so then you have the Green Bay Packers at number 15, moving on 3 spots after taking a pretty disappointing loss to the Giants there. I mean, like, I called it. It's a young football team. They are very talented. They have a lot of positives. They have a lot of things to look forward to in the future. Jordan Love has started to come on here late in the season, but then that Giants defense hit them, and the Giants have a really good defense. They've given a lot of offensive fits. But I kind of expected this going into this game. It's a young football team. Jordan Love, coming off a big win versus the Chiefs, a 3-game win streak. They're getting a little full of themselves, and they come into this game and they get humbled. And that was needed. Let's see how they're going to bounce back next week, but yeah, moving down 3 spots. Maybe should have moved them down more, but the Giants have been winning a couple games, so I didn't punish them too much, but was very disappointing because they were in a win streak. They did just beat the Chiefs the week prior, but moving down 3 spots, you're gonna be penalized. For 14, the Browns moving up 1. Hey man, that game was like a marathon. That game felt like it was so long, but I'll tell you. The Browns, man, they're finding ways to win. Kevin Stefanski is somehow, some way getting that team ready every single week. I mean, they play great defense, but their offense has typically been inconsistent. They haven't really had that guy at quarterback, but Joe Flacco has actually been looking pretty good. So, nice win versus the Jaguars team that has been, I mean, yeah, you did play Trevor Lawrence. That's definitely not 100%, but, I mean, you still beat the Jaguars, who've been a good football team so far this year, so the props of them moving up 1 spot. Number 13, you have the Houston Texans. They're down 4 spots. It's just been a roller coaster for this team, man. I mean, a little while ago they lost to the Panthers. The Panthers have their only win against the Texans, and then the Texans, they get a nice win streak going. They they beat a couple of really good football teams, and then now they lose to the Jets pretty badly. Somehow you allow the Jets to score their season high 34 points, I believe it was, which is absolutely wild. Very disappointing loss. So you're moving down a whopping 4 spots just because of that. Very, very disappointing. And, it is understandable. You played a really good defense without some of your best weapons, without some key players. And Nico Collins went out, in the middle of the game. And yet, you don't have Tank Dell. Of course, he's done for the year. But really disappointing outing nonetheless. And, injuries, I get it. They happen. But you're going to be penalized if you lose, especially versus a team that's been one of the worst in the NFL. So, yeah, moving on 4 spots to 13. Very unfortunate loss. Bengals moving up 1 spot. They dominated the Colts, man, on all phases of the game. They played really good defense. They played really good offense. Jake Browning looked great. They got after Gardner Minshew, and really, I feel like they should have won this game by like 30 or 40 points, to be honest with you, and it felt like they didn't really give it everything they had out there. I feel like they didn't show all their cards, so it's just kind of scary. I mean, Jake Browning has looked pretty good, and it's not really, the backup quarterback that's the problem. It's usually has been the run defense, but they did a very good job stopping Zach Moss in the Colts run game. So, big props to the Bengals for having a really strong outing versus the Colts. Like, they dominated them. Like, it never really felt close, to be honest with you. Even when it was 14-14, it didn't feel like the Colts were going to win that game because the Bengals were just going up and down the field on offense, and the Colts were just, they scored 7 points on offense. Other 7 points came from the pick six, and things didn't really go the Colts' way. And, that's kind of what happens when you always rely on things to go your way. It tends to catch up with you, and it did with the Colts this week. Bengals move up 1 spot. Rams are staying put. I mean, maybe I should have moved the Bengals up over the Rams, but didn't feel like it was necessary. I still feel like the Rams are the better football team right now. I think, both offenses are very explosive. Both defenses, I feel, are similar in multiple ways, but I think they did lose to the Ravens, one of the better teams in the NFL, and they really pushed them to their limit. They brought them to overtime, but they did lose, so they're not going to move up. I'm not going to punish them too much because it was a very good football game and they impressed me. And I went into that game. I told you guys, hey, that's going to be a lot closer game than a lot of people think, a lot closer game than Vegas thought, and absolutely it was. So Rams staying put at 11. Didn't move them up. Don't move them down. Number 10, the Lions. They're declining big time. I think teams have really figured them out, and I think it's about time that teams start calling zone against them, and the Bears play zone coverage really well with Matt Eberflus. And Jared Goff does not play good against zone coverage. Seems like he plays worse in the cold, which, the cold isn't easy to, is definitely more difficult to play in, but, I mean, he still looked horrible. Jared Goff didn't look good at all. I mean, making a couple of bad throws, some interceptions. And, this Bears defense has been impressive. Yeah, this Bears team in general has been making a lot of improvements, but, the Lions, just a major disappointment. They're declining big time. And, I think they're going to be looking for their quarterback of the future pretty soon here, because Jared Goff definitely is not the quarterback of the future. Now, in the beginning of the season, he looked great, and so many teams were calling man coverage against him. The way to beat Jared Goff is to call zone coverage. He's not good against zone coverage, so if you call zone, don't put too much man out there. You should have a pretty good day against Jared Goff. Now, stopping the run game, that's part two, but the Lions' offensive line hasn't been as good. Their defense has taken a step back towards where it's been last year. It's been very poor. It's been very bad. And teams are figuring them out. I kind of feeling like this team is a team that is going to struggle to win a playoff game now. I had them at 1 at one point. I think it was like week 5 or week 6. I may have had them at 1. But those days are long gone this season. And the Lions are going to continue to have to find ways to win it and evolve their game, because right now they're not doing that and they're only getting worse. All right, number 9. Jaguars moved down 1 spot. I mean, very disappointing loss to the Browns. Feel like they should have won that one. I think they trailed almost this entire game. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he did what he could do. He was hurt, and he was still playing the best that he could. But the defense, man, how about the defense? Like, the defense is very, inconsistent. But really, these last 2 weeks, the defense has not been very good at all. They really struggled versus the Browns, and they really struggled versus the Bengals. I mean, both offenses are really well coached and just getting things figured out. But, yeah, that defense is a problem. And now you have Christian Kirk is out for this season. He's put on IR. This Jaguars team isn't looking as good down the stretch either. Now we'll see what happens when Trevor Lawrence comes back. Or, he didn't even miss. We'll see what happens when he gets back to 100%, which it might be a couple weeks, taking an ankle sprain. It's not easy to come back from. It takes a little while. Sometimes you never regain, 100% in a season. But the Jaguars team, they still have some really good pieces in place, but some things are definitely being exposed on them too. Number 8, the Broncos, man. What an outing. What an outing versus the Chargers. Very good outing. Very fortunate that Justin Herbert did go out. That absolutely helps, because Easton Stick is no Justin Herbert. But, hey, they ran the ball really well. They got the job done. Moving up 2 spots. They've been looking like a really good football team as of late. Well, they've been looking like a good football team for a while now. Chiefs moving down 1 spot. Dolphins moving down 1 spot. So let's start with the Chiefs. The Chiefs. I mean, Mahomes can only do so much, man. It's probably going to be the same thing throughout the rest of the season. Mahomes can only do so much. They're definitely not the Chiefs that we're used to seeing, and that's because Mahomes doesn't have anyone to throw to other than Travis Kelce, so teams can really just zero in and focus on Travis Kelce, and they don't really have to worry about the receivers because none of them can really catch. None of them, all of them have make so many self-inflicted wounds and shoot themselves in the foot. It's so aggravating for Mahomes, and I understand where he's coming from. I understand why Mahomes is so freaking, mad and fuming, but I mean, man, at some point, I feel like he kind of got to tone it down and kind of like take a chill pill, but he's not used to losing. He's not used to that. So I think that's where that's coming from. But yeah, I mean, their defense is very good, but this is a prime example of, you could have a really good defense, but if you can't be explosive on offense and you can't get the job done on offense, you can't make those few extra plays on offense, it's going to be really difficult to win football games. I think they lost like 3 out of their last 4 or something. No, I think they're on a 2-game losing streak. It's been tough, man. 8-5. How many times have you seen the Chiefs, 8-5 with Mahomes? Can't get anything going. And then the Dolphins, man, like the defense kind of like choked it at them there. And then the offense choked then too. Like it was a full-on choke job for this Dolphins team. I mean, you're up 2 possessions on the Titans. 2 possessions. And, it is what it is. The Titans had the sack to end the game. But the Dolphins should have never been in that spot. Up 2 possessions with 5.5 minutes left to go. Very, very disappointing loss. I mean, this makes it very difficult for them to, maybe win that 1 seed now because their remaining schedule is insane. They play Dallas. They play Baltimore. And then they play Buffalo. I think their last 3 weeks, I think that's like their schedule in the last 3 weeks, which is absolutely brutal. So really, really disappointing loss for the Dolphins there. And it really seemed like they were going to win it. Once they scored that second touchdown, I towards the end there, like it was 27-16, I think. I don't know. It was 27. I don't remember what it was. Maybe 13. I thought the game was over. Obviously not. Will Levis found a way, and that they have had one of the best defenses over the last couple of weeks, and then you allow 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes. Will Levis absolutely cut you up. All right, number 5, Bills. As you see there, my biggest jump by far, and it's like not even close. I understand they only have 7 wins. I completely understand why you would be aggravated with this, but the Bills have shown more than all of these other teams behind them. They have shown more than the Dolphins. They have shown more than the Chiefs. They have shown more than and they did lose to the Broncos, but they're a better team than the Broncos. They did lose to the Jaguars, but they've shown more than the Jaguars, the Lions. So the Bills, they pushed the Eagles team to their very limit. It was a little miscommunication at the end there. Come off their bye and you beat the Chiefs. Take that for what you will. But what is really impressive about that game is the play calling was some of the worst I've seen all season long for the Bills, and that's saying something. Yet, Josh Allen in this offense was able to make big-time plays all day long. And considering how bad the play calling was, that's really impressive. Against a really good defense at that like disguising things. I like calling man coverage. They keep you guessing every single down. The Bills looked really good in this one. For how bad the play calling was, they looked really good. And I felt that a 9-spot jump over all of these other teams that they were behind was garnered. I think it was earned. The Bills move up 9 spots. I expect them to make the playoffs. I expect the Buffalo Bills to make the playoffs. Number 4, Eagles moved down 1 spot. I didn't want to move them down too much, because they have been a really good football team this year. But, I mean, getting dominated twice, man, against 2 of some of the better football teams in the NFL, that's not good. It's not a good look. And their defense has been horrible. Their offense feels very predictable. And their defense is very predictable on top of that. It's just, they're going to have to find a way to beat some of these better teams. And you look throughout the season, and you see that this Eagles team has... they haven't really dominated football teams. They had to come from behind 10 points versus the Chiefs and the Bills. Very fortunate to win that Bills game, honestly. I thought there were a lot of things that went the Eagles' way. Now, they did. They won it. You can't take that away from them. But you can't ignore those things. So, and they showed up again versus the Cowboys. They got smoked versus the Niners. And they got smoked versus the Cowboys. And it never felt close. And even the first game around versus the Cowboys outplayed them. A couple of things just went the Eagles' way towards the end. So, I still do think that the Eagles will probably win the division because their remaining schedule is actually, they're getting out of the tough part of their schedule. And the Cowboys are kind of getting into the tough part of their schedule. So, it is what it is there. But the Eagles, man, questions are definitely arising. They're definitely not as good as a football team as they were last year. They're a very good football team. They're top 5, I think. But big game this weekend. Big game. I think it's a Monday night game versus the Seahawks, actually. And that's a big game. That's probably their toughest matchup throughout the rest of the season. But moving down one spot, disappointing outing. I didn't think they would win that game. I did pick the Cowboys, but still, to be beat the way they did was pretty embarrassing. So, moving up. All right, so then the Cowboys moving up one spot. Absolutely dominating the Eagles. And they've had a couple of really nice games. They finally beat a couple of teams with some winning records. You beat the Seahawks with the winning record. Now you dominated the Eagles with a winning record, and the defense stepped up this week. That was nice to see. Remember, they had a little extra rest, too. But the Cowboys, man, they're looking good. I don't know if they'll win the division because, like I kind of said, the Eagles' rest of the schedule is very easy. The Cowboys is tough, and if the Eagles went out, they still control their own destiny with the division because they would have the better conference record. But the Cowboys still moving up one spot. You dominated the Eagles, looked really good. Dak looked good, making plays all day long with CD, and felt like they were running the ball all right. Yeah. Cowboys move up 1. And then 2, Ravens. I mean, it was a really good game. The Rams gave them a scare. I told people this game would be a lot closer than people thought. I don't really know what the Rams were thinking by calling man coverage on Odell Beckham for most of the game. I thought that was a very poor choice. Odell Beckham, even though he's older and maybe he's not in his prime, that dude's still a really good router. That dude is still a dangerous receiver. And if you don't take him in that way, he will give you fits. He will give you issues if you don't take Odell seriously. And he did give the Rams fits. And the Rams had a couple of blown coverages as well that the Ravens took advantage of. And, the Ravens, when it mattered most, they won it. They did it. And they beat a very good football team, too. The Rams are a good football team. They're sneaky. Their offense is very explosive, and their defense is decent. But coming out the big one versus the Rams, didn't feel the need to penalize them and move them down just because the Cowboys were very dominant against the Eagles, yeah. But we'll see. The Cowboys can definitely move up over the Ravens pretty soon here if they keep beating some of these tough teams on the stretch. Number 1, San Francisco 49ers. Do I really have to explain it too much? I mean, you see the teams that are at 3 and 4. The Niners smoked the Cowboys. They smoked the Eagles. This team is by far and away the best team in the NFL. And they've, besides those 3 games they lost, a 3-game losing streak, every win they've had, they have dominated their opposition. They've dominated the Cowboys and the Eagles like it was nothing. So, didn't really feel the need to move them down. I think they're the clear-cut number 1 team in the NFL. They're the clear-cut best team in the NFL. I don't even think it's really that close. Maybe the Bengals or I keep calling the Ravens the Bengals. Why? But the Ravens, I mean, they have dominated some really good football teams. They've beaten some really good football teams. But I still have the Niners at 1. Very dominant. By far and away the best football team in the NFL. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this weekly Power Rankings episode. I appreciate you guys for stopping by. It was a really good episode. I had a good time. And, if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. It's a great place to be. We do our weekly predictions in a couple days here. We have Hot Take Tuesday tonight. So, I'll catch you guys later. So, JDW Sports Talk Show, signing off.